The city was alive with motion. Cars roared down avenues, buses sighed at crowded stops, and neon lights blinked relentlessly, competing for attention. Yet, beneath all the noise and brightness, there were corners most people ignored. Alleys where the forgotten gathered, shelters that overflowed, benches that became beds. It was in one of those corners that Michael Turner lived. Once, he had been a man with a job, a home, and dreams. But life has a way of unraveling even the tightest threads. First came the illness that drained his savings, then the layoff that ended his career, then the eviction notice, cold and final. Within months, Michael went from tenant to trespasser, from neighbor to nobody. All he had left were his hands, and the memory of a gift his mother had once given him, a box of paints. As a child, Michael had spent hours sketching, trees, faces, skylines. His mother used to say, "Your hands see things your eyes don't." But in the struggle to survive adulthood, art had been abandoned. Until now. With nothing else, he returned to it, scavenging scraps of cardboard and broken brushes from trash bins, coaxing colors from discarded tubes. Most people passed by without looking. To them, he was just another homeless man cluttering the sidewalks. But Michael painted anyway. Not for money, not for attention. He painted because it reminded him that he was still alive, still human, still capable of creating beauty in a world that had reduced him to statistics. On a chilly afternoon, as shoppers bustled with bags of early Christmas purchases, Michael sat near the subway entrance, bent over a piece of cardboard. His fingers were cracked, his coat too thin, but his eyes focused with intensity as his brush swept across the surface. Slowly, a canvas emerged, not of the street around him, but of something softer, brighter. A child's face, laughing. Pedestrians rushed past, most didn't notice. A few dropped coins into the jar by his side without slowing down, but one person stopped. Claire Mitchell. She was a young professional, burdened by success that never felt enough. A rising executive in finance, she carried herself with polished confidence, but inside, she was fraying. The long hours, the loneliness of her apartment, the sense that everything she did was for money and nothing else, it weighed on her like invisible chains. That day, she should have walked past. She was late for a meeting, her phone buzzing with reminders. But something about the painting drew her in. She stopped, staring at the child's face on the cardboard. The joy in it, the innocence, the light. It was everything she hadn't felt in years. Michael glanced up, meeting her gaze. His eyes were tired, but kind. "Do you like it?" he asked quietly. Claire hesitated. "It's beautiful." "Why a child?" Michael smiled faintly. "Because children laugh without reason. They remind us that joy doesn't need permission." Her throat tightened. She hadn't laughed like that in years. "How much?" she asked impulsively. Michael shook his head. "It's not for sale." "I painted it for myself," but Claire pressed. "Then, would you paint one for me?" That single question became the beginning of something neither of them expected. Claire returned the next day, and the next. At first, she brought coffee, then sandwiches. She asked Michael about his art, his past, his dreams. Slowly, he told her pieces of his story, not to beg, not for pity, but because she listened. And in return, Claire shared her own burdens, the emptiness behind her salary, the ache of purpose lost. One evening, as the city lights flickered on, she found him working on another piece. This time it was a landscape, a park he remembered from childhood. The strokes were rough, the colors improvised from limited paint, but the feeling in it was unmistakable. Hope. Claire bought him a small sketch pad and real paints. "Not charity," she insisted. "An investment." Michael laughed softly. "An investment in what?" "In beauty," she said. Weeks turned into months. Michael began painting not just for himself, but for others. He gave portraits to families who couldn't afford photographs. He painted scenes of the city that commuters had stopped noticing. People began stopping more often, not just to drop coins, but to watch. His corner of the subway transformed into a gallery of cardboard canvases, each one whispering dignity where the world saw none. And Claire, she began to change too. Her visits became her anchor. She smiled more, laughed freely. She even dusted off her own childhood guitar, something she hadn't touched since college. Michael's art reminded her that life was more than spreadsheets and deadlines. Then came the night of the storm. Rain poured in sheets, winds howled, and the subway station flooded. Michael's corner was washed out, his paintings destroyed. When Claire arrived the next morning, he was gone. Panic gripped her. She searched shelters, hospitals, alleys. Days passed, weeks, nothing. Until one afternoon, months later, she entered a small community center hosting an art exhibit, and there, on the wall, hung one of Michael's pieces, signed, framed. She turned, and there he was, clean-shaven, wearing second-hand but decent clothes, greeting visitors. "Michael?" she breathed. He smiled, eyes shining. "Claire, you found me." He explained. After the storm, he had nearly given up, but one of the shelter volunteers had seen his work and introduced him to a local art program. They gave him a space, supplies, and eventually a chance to exhibit. "All because of you," he said softly. "You stopped. You saw me. You gave me back belief." Claire shook her head, tears brimming. "No, Michael. You gave me back belief. Your paintings reminded me what it means to live. They stood there, 2 lives changed by a single act of stopping, of seeing." Around them, strangers admired the art, unaware that the true masterpiece was not on the wall, but in the bond between an overlooked artist and a weary professional. Beauty has power. Even in the hands of the forgotten, it can awaken hearts, rebuild lives, and remind us that no one is truly invisible. Michael's paintings were not just art, they were bridges, and one woman's willingness to stop and see turned those bridges into lifelines. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that small acts of attention can change entire futures, don't let it end here. Follow our channel for more powerful, emotional stories that inspire hope, compassion, and courage. Because sometimes the choice to stop for a stranger is the choice that saves you both.